Hi, Mickey. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Shafiq. I look forward. That looks really good.
Okay.
Yeah,
I,
hi. That looks really good. Right. Well, welcome to everybody, and it's a pleasure to have Shafiq with us on music and its creative impact on me, a lifelong journey. And the sound is wonderful. We also have the
Correctly.
pleasure of having, is it Mohammed?
Ahmad.
Hamid, yeah. That is lovely of you to join us for this. Thank you. And anyone new who I can't see on the screen, you're almost welcome. So over to you, Shafiq.
Okay. Thank you, Mickey, very much for giving me this opportunity to essentially express my thoughts and my feelings about a very important aspect of my life, which is music, and of course, my experiences of it. Uh, I think you have made us very aware of how important our early years are and how we understand ourselves in the context of our experiences growing up and relating to people through masters who have studied, human behavior, like Freud and Klein and Winnicott, the people that you have talked to us about. So I'm very grateful for that. Now, my talk today is going to be about my experience, which I will summarize here. It's what it has done to my imagination and how it has also affected me emotionally and my intellectual growth and cultural appreciation and the nostalgic sort of feeling that I still entertain. And I will go through that through my early phases of life, which encountered different types of music, which I experienced growing up. So I will give you examples of that music. That is why I think sound was very important. And I couldn't do it last time because my sound wasn't working. But we've got Ahmad here today. And of course, we've tried it out and the sound is working. So I'll play pieces of music of my early years and talk about how that came about. And then subsequent to that, my teenage years also that sort of took me to a different type of music where beat was quite important and how it affected my emotional expression. And then subsequent to that was, of course, my college years, which took me to the introduction of classical music and an extended harmony that sort of became part of my life subsequently as well. And then, of course, my experience of religious music, which is a very important part of my life as well. So I'll try and give you a flavor of all these types of music so that you can at least appreciate a bit of what I'm talking about. So here is the thing about, I'm just going to move this a little bit. Yeah. It triggers basically, uh, okay. Um, my early years, when I was still very young, there was background music playing in the house because my uncles and aunts were keen sort of fans of music. And in those days, Bollywood was very important. Although classical sort of, music was there, but nevertheless, Bollywood popular music was the one that everybody sort of heard a lot of. So what it did to me, of course, was that in the early years, the melody was very important. And therefore, I still remember that from the early years. The lyrics, of course, I couldn't understand very much. But subsequently, I understood that. And of course, I appreciate that a lot more now. So I'm very grateful to my elderly members of the family who played all this music without me actually being aware of what this all was about. So that I'll be giving you pieces of music from this film called Avara, which was a very popular hit of the day in the 50s, I think it was. And of course, another one which was also called Babul. So these two films is pieces of music I will sort of play for you. That's just basically giving you a little introduction to the first part music, which is that Avara. And it's been performed by an actress, Nargis. And of course, in Bollywood, we have playback singers. So it's not Nargis who's the actress who's singing, but the playback is singing on her behalf. And playbacks, of course, are usually, very good singers. And of course, the lyrics that they express are usually drawn from the poets and the people who wrote that song, for instance, and they are very good poets of the day. So that's something that, of course, is there for one music. And there was another film of this, and these are very famous actors of the day. Nargis here, Dilip Kumar, of course, is a very famous actor, and Munawar Sultana, of course, another actress. Now I'll play actually the music, and you can listen to that. Yeah.
घर आया मेरा परदेसी प्यास मेरी अखियन की तू मेरे मन का मोती है इन नैनन की ज्योति है याद है मेरे बचपन की घर आया मेरा परदेसी
Okay, that expresses basically a little mood in that film where she's dancing in a very good setting, which is about the love she's expressing of a stranger that has come into their lives. And of course, it's been expressed by these filmmakers in a grand way. And the melody is very powerful. And of course, I didn't understand the lyrics, but that memory is still very much there. Now, one thing which I think I'd also like to add here is that the melody which does sit with us becomes part of us growing up. Uh, and because we have two parts of the brain, this occupies one of the parts of the brain much more strongly than the other one. And being an engineer by training, later on I will talk about basically how the university is taught, engineers should also sort of be introduced to music and have classes because the two sides of the brain, because the engineering brain is on the left side, very structured, mathematics and so on. But the music goes to the right side, which has a little bit more fantasy and creativity and basically a different type of approach. The two together become a lot more creative in the solutions as an engineer. That's what we have by way of some of the studies that we have been done on the subject. So it becomes very important as an engineer for me to sort of had that early education. and it has come out in ways that I find to have made me solve solutions with a wider perspective than what simply analytics and mathematics sort of give us. So I'll go on to the next example here. This is also a similar type of thing, but here we are having a sort of interaction between a teacher who's teaching a mature student how to sing. And of course, he loves it and she falls in love with her. So here, let's play that music.
आंखें दिल हुआ दीवाना किसी का
दिलते ही आंखें दिल हुआ दीवाना किसी का
अफसाना मेरा बन गया अफसाना किसी का
अफसाना मेरा बन गया अफसाना किसी का
पूछो ना मोहब्बत का असर हाय ना पूछो हाय ना पूछो
पूछो ना मोहब्बत का असर हाय ना पूछो हाय ना पूछो
Now, I'll stop there because what I think is being expressed is, of course, a little love, unrequited love in many ways, because the society that I grew up in, there was very little interaction between the males and the females, or the men and the women, to be able to sort of engage in romantic type of situations. So when it was expressed in films, it was a very popular type of situation that was appreciated by everybody. And of course, I was growing up and our school days, and this melody is still there in my mind. So that was another example of my early years of melody, which I still remember to this day. Let's go on to the next one. Now, as I became more mature, I was there in my teen years. That's when in the 60s, the Beatles came in, and the beat became the dance of the day. As I played earlier music, the melody was the thing, and subsequently lyrics of the melody. But here, beat became the expression for the younger crowd in my age, and of course, the expression was the dance that took us to the enjoyment part of that genre of music. And of course, my sort of experience was with the Beatles and of course the Elvis as well. And I'll play a couple of little pieces of that music so that you can see what I mean by that. This is a piece that I picked up from the Beatles called Obla Di and Obla Da. It's a bit of a laughable title, but it's a very lovely sort of tune with the beat. Yeah, I think all of you probably recognize and remember this type of song and the beat. And of course, the crossing and Abbey Road there, that was a very famous sort of image as well. But what I think is highlighted is that the change to the music overall, when Beatles came in, they introduced this beat, and the young loved it because it had that beat to which you could dance to, which is quite different from the waltzes and the other types of dances that were there prior to that, which were very sedate in many ways, beautiful, of course, in their own right, but it had less energy in a way. And this music had a lot more energy to it. And I think it's a very memorable part of one's growing up experience. And I found that this music made that type of expression of energy very visible and satisfying. There's another one which I want to play with you is the one about Elvis. Now, of course, all of us remember Elvis, and he sort of came up
Do we
with
have
all
to?
his particular type of music, and I'll play you a little bit of it so that you can recall what it sounded like.
Going through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there and they began to wail. The band was jumping and the drum began to swing. You should have heard this knocked out jailbird sing. Let it rock. Everybody let it rock. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Spider Murphy played his tenor saxophone. Little Joe was blowing on the slide trombone. The drummer boy from Illinois would crash, boom, bang. The whole rhythm section was a purple gang. Let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Number 47 said to number 3, you the cutest jailbird I ever did see. I sure would be delighted with your company. Come on and do the jailhouse rock with me. Let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in the whole cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Rock, 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 rock.
So there were your example of how much energy there is in that music. And I think it was the sort of order of the day for all the young people to be able to participate in that and enjoy that. And that has, of course, become very important part of one's growing up and being able to recall as well. So on to the next one now. Let's see now. So essentially, recalling as to why it is contributing towards my particular creativity and, of course, experience is recalling, of course, a USA university. I think George Tech was one, and Harvard and Carnegie Mellon also followed through, where they introduced into the engineering curriculum the introduction to music, and they found that the two halves of the brain work better, and the creative solutions
Cool.
came about as a result of having more experience of music. I know there are families, and in my own family as well, I was quite sort of surprised when I spoke to one of my cousins who's about just a bit younger to me. And I said, "What's your experience of music?" And she said, "Not much," because she says there was no music in the house at all. And I was quite a surprise, and I felt very sorry for her when she said that, because it was a type of experience which I think she missed out on. And I think it's sad if people have been sort of omitted from that experience in the early years. So for us, people who have, at least in my background, engineering, and maths and computers and so on, it's a very important part of finding solutions, and it's very much there. So here we are. Engineers often excel in recognizing patterns, symmetry, and systems, of course. And these are core elements of both music and engineering. So you can see they come together in that particular sort of setup, and therefore are appealing to the mind. So music has a mathematical foundations, the rhythms and time signatures and so on, and the harmonics that are there, harmonics, multiple frequencies, and appeals to the analytical mind because they don't actually sit down and analyze it, but they experience it, and I think that's a very satisfying experience. Now, in my college years, I had the sort of luck to be introduced by a college friend of mine, a school friend of mine who had come to UK, and he was very much into classical music, and I was most grateful to him because he played the first type of music that I heard, which was Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. So he played it to me, and I immediately became sort of, sort of fan of Beethoven from since that day. And just to sort of remember that a professor told me, a professor, not a musical professor, but man of physics. I think he was a physicist, but who had become, as it were, an enthusiast of music and was teaching a lot of people about music, and especially Indian and Western music, combined Eastern and Western. And he told me some phrase which I still remember to this day. He said Eastern music, especially Indian music, melody is very much crucial because and then of course in Western music, harmonics are crucial, harmony. And that is because, of course, understandable, because Eastern music is not written music, but Western music is written music. So you have written sheet music, which 50 people can follow and play music at the same time, and that harmony that gets created as a result of that, I think, is very distinctive, which is quite different from the Eastern music. I'm not talking about the raga. Ragas also are very much into all sorts of intrinsic type of compositions, but melody is also part of that, and therefore the early Bollywood music that I showed you, they've extracted the melody part of that raga and put it to lyrics by very famous poets, and then of course put the lovely faces of hero, heroines and heroes talking about it or singing to each other. That is a very memorable type of experience. So harmonics now are a result of Western music that I picked up when I came to college and was able to appreciate that as a separate genre of music. And of course, to this day, even it's very much part of my life. I'll play some music of that just to give you, just my own experience. So I introduced to music, and then I attended some concerts as well of the day. So here's an appreciation of music, which is distinct from melody as such, which is Bollywood, if you like, that incarnates of that. So here again, it has a creative impact on, I think, in deepening the intellectual and emotional depth of music that it sort of draws you into, and therefore I think very much enjoyable and very much a part of growing experience. So here's a little piece. I'll play of Mozart, which I still remember bits of it. As you can see, beautiful sort of music and something that transports you to into a world which gives the whole being a type of calm and enjoyment which you feel, as I'm sure the composer must have felt there in his own mind. I think the exposure to this type of music made me appreciate essentially the differences that are there, which are quite different from the type of melody music that I listened to in the early years. And I had exposure to raga as well, which I haven't really mentioned too much about, but it's a lot more, if you like a dialogue between two sort of instruments in a raga, the tabla and the sitar. Whereas in the Western thing, you have harmony, which has, about 40 people possibly playing at the same time because of the sheet music advantage that there is. So it is a very memorable piece, and it transports you into a type of mood in the mind that I'm sure all of you recognize, and I still feel to this day whenever I listen to this music. Now, this is an example of Beethoven's Knife, which is one of my favorites, of course. And I'm going to be playing something which is a little bit casual in some ways that it was put together. It was really an ad by Sabadell Bank, but it's done in a little yard there in front, and it's beautifully comes out through that as well. As you can see, very rousing and absolutely what I would call an experience each time that we listen to this particular piece, the Ode to Joy. I think the same tune has become the national anthem of Europe as well, I think. But a beautiful piece of music, and I sort of find that to be the type of music I listen to quite often, and just let my mind wander as to how rousing it can be, and make you feel what the words probably are also, if that of brotherhood of man and so on. I think it is very, very sort of moving, and makes you part of society and part of feeling for the others as well, that evokes that in the mind. So that's something that you also, of course, have experienced it many times, I'm sure, with this music, and of course with lots of other pieces which are as brilliant as this. And now I want to go and just have a little sample of the religious music. Because when I was young, we used to have sessions at home where there were groups of people that used to come and play religious sort of songs and music. And my father was a very keen sort of adherent of this. And we used to invite a lot of people, and we used to have evenings where these religious people, I'll show you examples of that, the same type of qawwali. It's a type of religious music that is in praise of God, in praise of Muhammad. And of course, ghazal is another type of music, which is basically expression of romantic type of love. And of course, Sufi music is expressing romantic type of love, but for the words meaning that are for God, not to your love here, who might really be, your romantic love here. And of course, Quran is the recitations are frequently evoked in many houses amongst the Muslims because of the sound itself. A lot of people do question and say, why sort of recite this when you don't understand the Arabic? And my sort of question has always, or answer has been that it is musical and therefore it's appreciated from that aspect as well. And when you are praying as well, the prayer are also reflection. I'll play you samples of that. So it's become part of your culture, and that's an example I will play for you soon, shortly. So it gives you a feeling of community because you all get together to listen to this, and therefore brings you closer to each other, and therefore you have relationships which I think are important in any type of individual. So let's play on some examples. Now, here is a Khawari, example of a Khawari. Um, Here we are.
खत्म रसूल काबे मकसूद तुई तरसूरते हरचे हस्त मौजूद तुई आयात कमाल अनस्बतो आजाद के दर पर्दा नबूद तुई सुहानी रात थी सुहानी रात थी और पुरसकून जमाना था असर में डूबा हुआ जज्ब आशिकाना था उन्हें तो सरनाम का से तलब हुई सुए
So this is again, it starts to build up very slowly, and then as this thing progresses, it becomes a lot more faster, and the beat increases as well, and the feeling and the mood gets a bit more aroused as it builds up, and I think that comes through a little bit more clearly in the next one that I will be playing here. Now, these are two brothers, very, very famous. So one of them has passed away, the elder one, and they have created a genre of type of qawwali, which I think has been appreciated by the diaspora all over the world and Muslims elsewhere as in other countries as well. And the praise to Allah is called by a different name, and praise to the Prophet is so called a naat, which is what they're basically sort of singing about. And of course, these things are longish, the like a whole um, composition of Western classical music. It has so many movements, so there's the length of this thing is also quite lengthy in its original type of expression. So it evokes a very strong feeling of religious connection that people sort of need to also have in order to satisfy their spiritual sort of needs. Because I think all of us have these particular yearnings. As one is young, there's a yearning to be amongst young girls, women, and so on. And of course, as you grow older, yearning towards religious type of moods and expression. And I see a lot of my sisters and siblings are very much into this. The player, let's see if we can get some more. Yeah, this is something that I want to play, which is a qawwali by a young girl, which I think is talking about a simple little story about her two children, not her children, but of a mother having two children, and each one of them want to know who's better in their crayon work that they have done on the slate. And of course, the thing gets escalated from the father to the prophet and ultimately to God. And then God says, okay, let it be decided by the apple falling, and the one it falls on will be the winner. And of course, it splits, and that's what it is. Here is her singing by all the young sort of children.
एक किस्सा अर्ज है आले नबी की आल का
एक किस्सा अर्ज है आले नबी की आल का
वाकया ये है अली हैदर के दोनों लाल का
वाकया ये है अली हैदर के दोनों लाल का
8-10 का सिन था अब तक कम सिनी थी आपकी इनके हर एक आरज़ू में थी खुशी माँ बाप की एक दिन शब्बीर शब्बर बांध कर ये दिल में आस एक तख्ती लिख के लाए फातिमा जहरा के पास और फिर दोनों खुशी में झूम कर कहने लगे यानी अपनी माँ के बाजू चूम कर कहने लगे प्यारी अम्मी जान हमको जल्द समझा दीजिए किसकी तख्ती ठीक है लिल्लाह फरमा दीजिए फातिमा जहरा ने तख्ती हाथ में ली जिस घड़ी प्यार से दोनों के चेहरे पर नजर उनकी पड़ी ममता से माँ का दिल करबट बदल कर रह गया और प्यार का जज्बा कलेजे में मचल कर रह गया
प्यार का जज्बा कलेजे में मचल के रह गया
So you can see it's a sort of a story that is good for listened by young children, and that is one way of conveying a religious type of knowledge and lesson, if you like, of old sort of anecdotes and morality behind this, and how one is able to look at, generally speaking, an expression of music conveying that lesson. So I thought that was a little aside that I could sort of show it to you as well. Sorry. Now, the other thing I want to also say is, the Quran is the holy book of the Muslims, and of course, it came at a time when writing was not that sort of, widespread. So recitation was the important thing, and the Quran does mean recitation, and it has poetical type of structure as well, so as to memorize it is easy, I suppose. But the message is the important thing of the Quran. But because the expression that has been, the message has been conveyed in that Arabic language of the day, in a form, because in that period it came, poets were also very much respected, and they used to create all sorts of poems. And of course, this fitted in well as well when the message came in a very poetic form. So I'll just make you listen to a little bit of recitation here.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Now, this is the first surah of the Quran. Surah is the first little revelation that is presented as the form is of the Quran is presented to us. And this piece of recitation is part of every prayer, which we call the namaz, by every Muslim, done 5 times a day, those who are practicing it very traditionally. So again, fairly much a musical type of base to.
Yes.
Okay, so nostalgia is what I reflect on as well, and my time is running out, I think. So just one little piece of music I thought I might which all of you remember as well. It takes me back as well.
Down the way where the nights are gay and the sun shines daily on the mountain top, I took a trip on a sailing ship, and when I reached Jamaica, I made a stop. But I'm sad to say I'm on my way. Won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston town. Sad to
Okay, I think that basically is what I want to do, and therefore, thank you, Mickey, again.
So much. That was a real voyage of discovery from childhood to adulthood, and with lovely distinctions between the right and left-hand side of the brain, which is being studied so much at the moment in neuroscience. And there was a very good program on Radio 4 with Giles Fraser, the priest, on music, which is part of the right-hand side, as you said, of the brain, which is so connected as well to spiritual experience. So those are connected. Thanks for introducing me and to all of us to your world and your voyage through music, which was very deeply moving and authentic, and touched me deeply and made me nostalgic. Of course, just the last thing I'd like to say, music and memory, a lot of work is done with Alzheimer's now, and music. Music seems to be the last thing that many people who are losing memory react to, and it stirs, music seems to stir up memory much more than story or verbalization. And so the impact is great. And I loved your progression, from things that we've all experienced, from, early music, rock and roll, the Beatles, and well, from the Jewish point of view, because I'm very interested in cantorial music. There are strong links there between cantorial music and was it the I can't remember the term, the Qawwali.
Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Jews who came from Eastern countries, their cantorial music was very influenced by that, more than the Western, which is called Ashkenazi music, which was influenced by, more Western culture. So thank you so much. I just, just two anecdotal things. A lot of work is, wonderful work was done. That was my generation. My husband was a great cricket fan, and he was very keen on someone called Neville Cardus, who wrote about cricket and music. Cardus found the sort of motion of the bat and the ball, musical. Of course, Einstein was very, very involved with music, and my late uncle, who went to America, he was a mathematician, and met Einstein, left us he died very young, left a lot of notes on mathematics and music and the connection between the two. So that's just a bit of anecdotal stuff. I mean, there's a lot that we could unpack, but I'm sure there are many other comments. Thank you so much. That was a real joy, a real delight, and thanks for sharing your journey with us. Yeah, I think
Welcome.
Les, over to everybody now.
Now, I think there's a comment from Gerda.
Yeah, Shafiq, I'm totally inspired by this journey that you took us on. And I learned also quite a bit. And what I noticed about the Eastern music or Islamic music, that it's very embodied. The sound gave me an entrance into the melody. That was interesting to realize.
Yes, thank you, Gerda, for your comments. I still feel that the the experience I've had of being exposed to all these various types of music has enriched my life enormously, because especially in my later years as now, there are lots of quiet moments, and those quiet moments are filled to a large extent with music and my nostalgic type of past experience recall. So very, very important part of my life now.
Hand now raised. Press F6 to reach pop-up and lower hand.
Thank you. Mitra,
Hi, thank you very much. Shafiq, you played some of Gavali. You said the two brothers. Is that Nusrat Fateh Shah, Nusrat Fateh Khan?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
The Gavali you played,
Yes.
the two brothers you mentioned, is that
Yeah.
Nusrat Fateh?
The Sabri brothers, the brothers.
Okay.
Sabri.
All right, so it's not Nusrat Fateh.
No. Nusrat Ali is also a very, very famous Khawal.
Okay.
But he came a bit later. But
Okay.
these were the earlier ones who sort of really popularized Qawwali to such an extent as they did. And
Okay.
then, of course, Nusrat Fateh Khan became very, very popular as well later.
Later. Okay.
Yeah.
Is Qawwali a Sufi music, or is it more, what would you call it?
Yeah, I would say because the Sabri brothers are doing Qawwali, which is very Sufi in nature as
Yes.
well. As you can see, they are sort of very much committed to that Naats expressing love for God
Yes.
as well and for Prophet and so on. And Sufi music does sort of make the love of your beloved as an expression towards God.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's more Sufi rather than Muslim. Is that right? Would you?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Qawwali is the style,
Yeah.
and you can also have very down to earth type of lyrics
Yeah.
in Qawwali style. But when it sort of goes towards the religious, then it has that name called Naat for the praise of prophet and so on. So they sort of identify it a little bit separately. That's a broad sort of classification, Qawwali.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Mhm.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Comment that I came across a long time ago when Bertrand Russell, the famous philosopher, was asked which sense would he rather keep, the sight or the hearing, and he said hearing definitely.
Mm.
Go
Evelyn,
ahead.
you have to unmute, Evelyn.
Mine's not a question. Following on from Mitra's, from Louise's question to Mitra, it was very interesting. Many, many years ago, my first job, when I worked with the visually impaired, at our day centre, we had a debate one day. Which would you find more, if you had to choose between blindness and deafness, which one would you choose? And surprisingly, the overall response was we'd rather be blind than deaf.
I
So
hope
I'd
that
just
this
like to add
something
one
for.
thing, as you mentioned technology. Neuralink is a company that is working with embedding a little chip in the brain,
Yes,
which
yes.
bypasses the affected areas of the sight, which means that sight can be restored with the chip. And I think that is going to be a wonderful gift for all the people who can't see.
You mean the percussionist?
Yeah. Was it Carol or Ursula who made that comment?
Or composers like Beethoven.
Oh, Beethoven was
Beethoven
deaf
became deaf. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
There's that famous musician, the percussionist.
It's Evelyn somebody other.
Bocelli is blind.
Andre Bocelli.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Shafiq, for an inspiring talk. And I'm sure then it will feed us for the rest of the week. And And let's all think of music that has inspired us and is inspiring us at the moment. Thank you very much to Shafiq. Thanks, Les. And thanks to all of you for your lovely input. And I think that will feed us for the week and inspire us to go back to music that has shaped us and that has made an impression on us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci, Les.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Au revoir.